And we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty One, and with me tonight again is Tom from MEAD Radio.
Hello.
So, first off, let's say Happy Halloween to everyone.
Happy Halloween to everyone.
Happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. I don't remember the lyrics for that song. But then again, I never really was fond of Season of the Witch anyway.
Oh, I like that one.
I mean, I get it. You know, it wasn't like meant to be, you know, a Michael Myers story, but you know, I did associate as a kid Halloween with Michael Myers. So let's start this debate off with something simple. I argue that Halloween 4 is the best of the sequels. Your opinion?
As far as the sequels go, yeah, I mean it's up there. I think 2 is better and a few other ones possibly, but I have a hard time arguing too much maybe. I mean, we'll see how we go here, but yeah, I mean it's not the worst.
Yeah.
I'd put it up there as probably like if you're going with if you're including everything, I'd have to put like Halloween 1, 2, 3, H2O, and possibly 1 or 2 of the other films before it. But of course, like the Rob Zombie films and Halloween 5 and 6, not even close. But overall, I mean, the way they decided to extend the story beyond the first 2 films, not a bad idea. Too bad it didn't come into better fruition in 5. But what we get out of 4 is a pretty solid film, and generally is one of the more favorite films of the fan base anyway. And I can see why it would be your personal favorite sequel. But I'm curious as to why that is anyway. Just the same.
Sorry, that was the darn stream replay there. Keep going.
Worries. I just said I'm curious to hear why you think it's the best sequel.
Oh, well, for one thing, I am a fan of, 80s artistic aesthetics. And I mean, I know that sounds a little like a little too smarty for some geek like me to say. I mean, honestly, I don't know a dang thing about aesthetics, but it's more like the visual. See, when you look at a movie or the 80s remake of The Blob, now I've only seen that movie like once or twice when I was little. It scared me a lot, but it had a distinct look to it that basically, it was made to look 80s. It's kind of like looking at the 80s RoboCop film, You can like tell the grimy look of urban life, wet concrete and such. And basically I see that in the Halloween 4, but I don't see that in any other of the Halloween films, or even because it's like everything is dry. Everything is like, there's hardly any, dank, anything dank. And if that's even a right term I'm using. But yeah, it's like Halloween 4, it captured the 80s feel, and it also had a good artistic visual look to it, in my honest opinion. And that's just the start off for this debate.
I'm actually not a big fan of the look of the film, to be honest with you.
Oh, you're not?
I feel like it's too bright.
You think it's too bright?
Too much of the movie takes place during the day. And then a lot of the night scenes are very heavily lit with like blues. It doesn't look horrible per se. I just don't feel like, I mean, I understand where you like the tone of it, and I don't think it's a bad tone per se, but I don't know if it would necessarily be in line with the first 2 films, if that makes sense.
Well, it just so happens that I'm not going to keep this image of the stream up. I'm actually going to switch over now to a different image. I am going to switch over to, let's see here if I'm finding the right one. Nope. If it's possible, let me see here. And of course, someone's cell phone chirps when I told him to unplug it or turn it off. What the hell do I pay you for?
You don't pay me. That's the problem.
Oh, gonna put that on me now, eh?
Yeah.
All right.
Turn it off now.
Thank you.
You're happy.
Okay. I think I got it the right one here. Now then. Let's try this image. Okay, I mean, look at that. You see that image there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not. It's very music video.
Music video?
Yeah, a lot of smoke, a lot of backlighting. It doesn't help that I don't like how the mask looks.
Well,
And,
yeah.
I mean,
but
it's not horrible looking. Like I said, that like the look of the movie is not that big of a deal to me. It's all right. It's not like horrible. But I'm not. It definitely doesn't have the look like somebody like Dean Cundy would have given it.
Well, here's another image I got here. Let's see. Screen share. See, I got to do this by darn tabs, and that's what's ticking me off a little. Now, see, look at this one. This is a daytime shot, and it is colorful, artistic looking. And I understand that's not exactly how the old Carpenter films opened. They opened like, let's see.
I mean, that's maybe one of my biggest issues as far as like the opening part of this film and the whole daylight bit of it is it doesn't really seem to fit in with because you have like this overall aesthetic with how the first two films open up. And then when you get to this one, it doesn't borrow that same opening.
Yeah.
So it just kind of feels out of I wish they would have done that. Like something new with the pumpkin, kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, in the first one here, all you had was the pumpkin. And then the second one, you had a zoom in of the pumpkin, and then it splits open to reveal a skull inside. What more can you do from there?
I don't know, it's just something similar. They never brought that back. That was one thing I always was kind of upset. That none of the films, including H2O, which really kind of bothered me, it
brought that opening back.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not that hard to replicate. It's just, it is kind of like, you should have brought it back. Come on. It was just it was like a uniform. It's kind of like how the beginning of Star Wars with the whole, the crawl. To me,
yeah,
it's
the
kind of
opening crawl, and then Rogue One was the one movie that differentiated itself by not having it, right?
Kind of, but those are like that and Solo are supposed to be separate stories, so I understand.
Well, I never really saw Solo, so.
Well, yeah, same thing. It opens the same way.
Yeah, it's like after the TLJ, I couldn't watch any more Disney Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. And I only stayed with Rebels just till the end of the series. And then since then, I haven't touched it again. But I do kind of get where you're coming from. My argument for why we only see this black screen with the zoom in of the pumpkin from 1 and 2 is because I always saw, even though there were probably no plans for them to be made, for the sequel to be made at the time, as a kid growing up seeing these movies, it was like 2 was made so authentically, like it was continuing the first one. It's almost like they were shot back to back.
I'm trying to. They didn't do it for the new movie, did they?
I don't know about the new one, but I'm talking about the original first 2 Halloween.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think the new one might have, but I can't remember now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. It's like you look at Halloween 2, you would not think that a few years had passed. You would think that they actually did film it back to back.
Oh yeah. I mean, they did a pretty good job outside of the different guy playing Michael Myers. They really did a pretty good job of keeping the uniformity outside of the the extra gore. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can tell it's a little bit more higher quality film stock, and they did have a little bit better budget. But again, it feels like a natural extension of the first one for the most part.
Yeah.
To the
And
point where they
personally-
even filmed a couple scenes for the television version while they made part 2. I don't know if
Yeah.
you knew that.
That I did not know.
Yeah, because when they showed
But
on
I
TV,
do know
they
that
had to
I
have
do
it run.
prefer Halloween 2
Yeah.
over Halloween 1.
You know, it's weird how, I mean, very
Like-
rarely can I see a sequel being better than the first film. That's my, like,
Yeah.
because it's very
I don't know
tough.
if you've ever heard of the. I don't know if you've ever heard of the YouTuber reviewer Decker Shadow.
Not ringing any bells.
He does reviews on movies like Halloween, Schwarzenegger films, Stallone films, and such like that. But one thing I can sort of agree on his assessment of the review of the first Halloween is it really is long, and it's like there's not much killing done in it. It's like he's waiting. I mean, I understand they wanted to make Michael Myers like a modern day ninja. He waits and bides his time. It's just that it seemed to have dragged most of the time.
Yeah, and yeah, I just checked it out. Yeah, I thought so. The new movie does do a similar opening. It's got the rotted pumpkin, but it reverses from rotting to. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I never really saw the newer ones yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
Yeah, well, the truth is, there's a reason why I haven't seen it, because I feel like it's a disservice to like movies 4 and 5. Now, I grant you, 5 is a little inferior compared to 4. However, there's still some good things to like about that movie. But I feel it's a disservice to 4 and 5 when the new remake just not only destroys the whole Michael and Laurie being siblings, but that the daughter isn't even Jamie Lloyd or Jamie Strode.
Well, H2O kind of undid 4 and 5 and 6 anyway, so.
Well, not initially. Initially, the plan for H2O was to acknowledge the whole daughter of Jamie Lee Curtis's character. They were going to have it where someone in one of her classes had been researching the Haddonfield murders and then brought to news the whole in front of the class and to Laurie that Michael Myers returned, haunted his niece, and then she ended up dying. And then there would be a scene of Jamie Lee Curtis walking out of her classroom to the restroom and then throwing up. That was actually planned for the H2O film, but because the freaking studio didn't want to acknowledge the 4th, 5, and 6, they cut that. There is
one.
one.
I can see why, because it's stupid. It makes no sense because why would she leave one child and keep another? That's why. That makes absolutely zero sense.
My rationalization for that is the first child. Jamie was the first child, and she left her hoping to protect her. But then when she was in hiding, that's when she had another kid out of nowhere, and she hoped maybe she could make up with this one.
Yeah, don't work quite. Yeah, I just don't see a parent doing that.
That's my logical argument. But
nah.
And yeah, I admit 5 and 6 really did. The writing did get messy and such. But I could believe the whole Cult of Thorn being a supernatural group that instilled demonic power into
yeah, and that's where I feel like it went way off the rails, and that's why H2O got rid of all that stuff.
Well, actually, I don't think it went off the rails in that movie. I think it went off the rails right off in the first film.
As far as the Thorn stuff?
The whole supernatural Michael.
Oh, he wasn't very supernatural in the first film, really.
That's what they want you to think. If you remember the scene where Michael is coming after Laurie when she's trapped in the closet, she's like hiding, but then, she's trying so hard to fight back. She grabs the hanger and she stabs it, jams it right into his neck. Now, I can buy Michael Myers taking 5 shots from Dr. Loomis's pistol and falling off the back of the rail, over the railing off the second floor and to the ground, and yet still get up and walk away because, you know, he probably wore a Kevlar vest. But before all that, he took the pointy end of a freaking hanger to his neck.
Well, as long as you don't hit an artery, you're fine.
Yeah, but
and I'll tell you this right now, I don't think he had a vest on either. Type in like crazy dude on PCP up against like the cops, and you'll see they can take like fucking 20 shots and still keep going. It's just, I think that's the whole thing with Michael, is just he's an unstoppable machine in that sense. Like, he's not inhuman, but he's inhuman in a sense like he doesn't register pain. Like things
maybe
like that.
He could have been part of some experimentation at the hospital.
Not so much that. It's like, it's just
and that was the whole
you kind of get into this whole idea of like, you know, these guys, and well, usually I say guys because it's normally guys who are serial killers or crazy like this, but it can happen to, I'm sure, to anybody. But you get to that point where you're that fucking insane. You're not going to feel things like a normal person. You're not going to see the world like a normal person. Yeah. And I mean, and then again, they do amp it up quite a bit in part 2. Because once you get to part 2, it is really kind of like this whole, you know, yeah, he's getting a little into like the Jason territory of, and even Jason wasn't like superhuman until really like more like in part 6 and beyond. I mean, he did a few things earlier on that are a little, you know, maybe, but I mean, if you look at it like Michael is this big, strong kind of guy, and the kind of strength that he can exert or whatever in the first 2 films, it's believable. And even in the 4th film, it's not so unbelievable. Like, he doesn't really do anything that I can recall offhand too much in the 4th film that gets unbelievable. It's really in 5 and 6 that it gets really bad in my recollection. But it's been a couple years since I've seen any of the films, and I was going to watch the 4th one today, but I couldn't find my box set. It's still packed away, I think.
Oh.
So,
well, I got my fingers crossed for you. But yeah, I just feel like everyone, see, if he really was meant to be, you know, just a man who can be killed, it's just he's tough to kill, then I would buy that if the darn, you know, the pointy hanger wasn't jammed into his throat in the first film. Because that, I feel, is when they really hinted that he might be supernatural.
Well, do you know how to do an emergency tracheotomy?
I'm not a medical expert, but I am under the impression that unless you can somehow stitch the throat back together, any critical hit to the throat in any shape or form is likely to kill you.
Yeah, you got some area there where as long as you're not hitting the windpipe and you're not hitting any major artery, you're fine. Yeah. And I mean, his adrenaline is probably going. That's the other thing, is like, you can imagine like how Michael's adrenaline's going, and that's probably why he's not feeling a lot of anything. Like, you can look up stories of mothers with like 2 broken legs and 2 broken arms lifting their cars off of their kids because of adrenaline, man. I mean, you'd be awfully surprised. I've seen, I don't know how many videos, like I said, of guys on like PCP or Angel Dust that just keep coming and coming at the cops, even though the cops are just, you know, unloading their clips into them. I mean, they eventually succumb, but I mean, it's more like they just, for a bit there, it's just like, is this not even affecting them? What's the deal, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, and I'm not saying Michael's on any kind of drug. I mean, he could be still on some kind of drugs from the facility, but by this point, I doubt it. I think it's just more so the adrenaline and the whole idea of him going after babysitters and stuff.
Well, I would buy that. Again, I would buy that. But like I said, when he took that jab to the throat, he did collapse long enough for her to walk over him and try to get away. Yeah. But then of course she bent down to try and catch her breath. But then he just sits up like the Undertaker, like it didn't even faze him. And
I think you're misinterpreting. It was he took the big I think he took the crocheting thing to the neck, and it was the clothes hanger to the eyeball, if I remember right.
Oh, well, either way, and not to mention, if you recall, in Halloween 2, he took 2 shots, 1 to each of his eyes, and yet he still was able to see what he was doing in Halloween 4. So I'm pretty sure they were hinting right off the bat. This guy he seemed human, but he was not human. And
yeah, that's one thing is like, see, the thing is Carpenter meant for Halloween 2 to be the end of Michael Myers. That's why he ended it the way it was. He
yeah,
did not mean for him to come back in any way, shape, or form.
but then when people wanted Michael Myers to come back, he tried to write Halloween 4, but they just he and the studio just couldn't see eye to eye, so that's why he left the project and let them handle it.
Yeah, it wasn't his cup of tea at that point, and he wasn't even really happy with part 2, and what he did with the newest film, if any of his influences in there, I'm just like, I'm not a big fan of the new one either.
And don't get me wrong, I respect Carpenter for giving us Halloween and even Big Trouble in Little China. But it's just, I feel these newer films are just all an attempt to kiss his butt.
I don't even know if they're that. I think the initial idea was sound, but I think they lost the idea along the way or something, because I mean, initially when I heard the idea, like, it made sense to me. You want to make it to where it's all about the babysitters again. There's no familial connection, which makes sense, so you can continue on the series and not have Laurie Strode be the focal point.
Well, if you really did not want her to be the focal point, why not just bring back Jamie from part 4?
And they actually thought about bringing her back as the new daughter in this new version, and it just didn't work out that way. But because they thought mostly because they thought it'd be confusing.
That's just them thinking we're idiots.
No, it's just, I get where they're coming from to a point. I'd just as soon seen her play the part than the one we got, because I'm not a big fan of the. I mean, she was all right in the new one, but I don't like her granddaughter, and this isn't so much a discussion about the new film. I mean, there's so many issues. Like, it didn't do a good job of explaining why Laurie Strode shouldn't be a part of it, because she's still a part of it. And then on top of it, you could have made her like the Loomis character, and instead they just made her more like Laurie Strode again. It was just kind of meh. And the other problem you have with part 4, though, getting back to part 4, is the ending, because it never pays off in part 5 real well.
Well, that's mostly because the studio interfered. Now, to an extent, I kind of understand why they didn't go down that road with the part 4 ending, because they felt that Jamie was such a likable girl, it would have been horrible to see her just fully embrace the evil. And so they wanted to find a way to make her a redeemable character.
Well, and that falls on part 4. They should have never had that ending. They should have reshot the ending or cut that off or something, because, it totally doesn't fit with the movie overall.
I actually wrote a script for my own part 5 of Halloween, and I'm actually going to DM it to you. But basically, it's how I would explain certain aspects of why she did what she did, yet she is sorry about it. So it's like, I understand why they didn't want to completely make her irredeemable, but there is a way you could have kept that dark edge on her. My argument is, when she attacked, her foster mother, she was suffering post-traumatic stress.
Potentially, but you also have the problem of, you basically had a writer who probably just didn't know how to end the movie. And they wanted to have some big shock or scare at the end of the movie, and I really don't know how the hell they thought they were going to play that off into the 5th film. And considering how fast they went into production on the 5th film, I just don't understand how they thought they were going to work this in. And the way it goes into the 5th film, it's such a cop-out. And I mean, it pretty much is the way they play it out, is that she had PTSD, really. I mean, like, that's kind of how it's played off in the 5th film. So there's really no way of cutting it without just going the route they should have went with it. And I mean,
I said, my idea is, the long-term effects of that PTSD, because, I actually think you could tell that version of Halloween 5 nowadays. Just get the actress that played young Jamie and Rachel, and then have them be the new Michael and Loomis.
Kinda. That's not a bad. That's kind of where I was going to go. I mean, that's really what they should have done back then, is just jumped ahead so many years and just had Jamie grown up as like, and like you said, just kind of like the repeat of the history repeating itself in the family kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been necessarily against that. But now, if you do that now, it's just going to look too much like you're trying to replace Michael with a woman. That's the sad part.
Not exactly, because wait until you read the end of that story idea of mine. But the thing is, and there's another thing that I think made Halloween 4 a real good film, is that it had the potential of expanding the lore. Because another thing, there was a, I don't know if you're familiar with Fanzine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he did a video on whatchamacallit. He did a video on the Halloween 4, and one of the things that he liked about it was the introduction of this character. As soon as I pull the thing up, this guy.
But honestly, I mean, to really be clear though, I mean, I really wouldn't want anybody but Michael Myers. To me, that's not, if you're going to do Michael Myers' story, it's Michael Myers.
Yeah, but you could do Halloween spin-offs, is what I'm saying, because you got an idea of this guy, Jacob P. Sayer, would be, or Jackson P. Sayer, would be a good idea to follow up on, because at first you think he's just some spiritual counterpart of Dr. Loomis, who's just raving about hunting down evil, just like Loomis is hunting down Michael. But for all we know, he might actually be hunting down someone that's evil, just like Michael, just taking a different form. So it's like you could. Fanzine's idea was that he had the spinoff idea. It could be, he was hunting someone in his youth. And then this is the him, and then you could like open the movie where he's telling this story to Loomis, but then the entire movie could be like a flashback to when he confronted this evil, and possibly on Halloween. It's like, while Loomis was dealing with Michael Myers on Halloween night, Jackson P. Sayer was dealing with a different kind of evil in a different part of the country on Halloween night.
Right.
And then there's the whole, what was he hunting? Could he have been hunting Freddy Krueger? Could he be hunting Jason Voorhees? Or could he be hunting a totally different character along those lines? See, that's what I feel like Halloween 4 did good. It's that it opened the door to expanding the lore of Halloween. It's just the studio didn't capitalize on that by the 5th film.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I guess my issue overall with 4, 5, and 6 is they didn't feel like Halloween movies to me.
Well, maybe not 5 and 6, but
even 4 to a point, and that's my personal opinion, of course. But I mean, I feel like they suffer a lot from the Friday the 13th syndrome. Loomis gets some great shit to do in part 4, but outside of that, I mean, there's just, I don't like the mask. I don't like the guy they got playing Michael. Jamie's great. What's her face? The blonde girl's
Rachel.
Good. Rachel's all right, but again, like their whole dynamic is ruined by the end of the film, and then 5 and 6 don't do it any favors, unfortunately. So like that's the thing, is it gets so convoluted and messed up by the end of 6 that H2O was such a welcoming from me. Like I was so happy to see that. Like that's one of the few times you'll ever see me say, "Oh, good God, thank God they got rid of the other crap." Because by the time we got to 6, I was just totally turned off by this series. I thought 6 and 5 were just a complete waste of time, and it felt like such below Michael Myers. Because like when this film came out, it did pretty well. It did all right. It just kind of felt a little bit below Michael's standards. I don't know if that makes sense, but it just kind of almost felt rushed and on the cheap, even though it was like 10 years in the making. It just, something about it. It just felt like it was kind of more like trying to cash in on the fact that Freddy and Jason had both had their biggest films and their franchises pretty much, and they were just trying to find any way, shape, or form they could to bring this back, whether the script was good or not. And I get it. You enjoy it, and I don't want to take that away from you. But, like, I mean, if I had a chance to watch it again, I'm sure I'd had a lot more nitpicks. Because this is not one of my go-tos. Like, because usually if I do watch the Halloween films for Halloween, it's usually the first two and then H2O and 3. And then outside of that, every few years, I'll do like the 4, 5, and 6. But very rarely will I. It's just very rarely. Because I think the last time I watched them is when that box set first came out. And ever since then, I've just done the regular trilogy. So, and I think last year, I just watched or the year before or whatever. I don't even know if I watched any last year, but the year before, I think I just watched the first one before I went to see the new one. And yeah, I think after that, I was kind of turned off. So I haven't really watched any since. Although I do have the first one now in 4K, but I haven't watched it yet this year. So.
Well, I always felt like, because like you said, you don't like the guy that plays Michael because he is it because he was wearing like hockey pads underneath that?
He just feels like a guy, stuntman in a costume. It doesn't, and the masks are horrible throughout the film. The two that they really have, or 3 or whatever, because they have that one messed up one, and then.
Yeah, I know of only the messed up one, the one that had like pink and then blonde hair. But you can overlook that. I mean, that was obviously an editing mistake. But
I mean, as far as the sequels go, this one did not have. It's not as bad as 5. Don't get me wrong. It's not as bad as
worst mask because
it's not as bad as H2O maybe, but 6 probably had the better of the sequel masks outside of.
You think so?
Probably.
I kind of liked the 4 mask because I get it. It's like ghost white and clean.
Well, it feels like it's cheap as shit. Like, it feels like what it feels like when you watch it. It feels like you're. I don't know if you know, a couple years back when Trick or Treat brought out a few different versions of the Michael Myers mask, and they did like 3 different versions, and like the really low tier, like cheap version. Is what it feels like we're getting in part 4. That's what it looks like to me, like that thin, really cheap rubber.
Well,
it just doesn't look anything like the original, too. I mean, it just, yeah.
Well, I actually I understand what it means by to have a cheap mask. It's just because I have a hockey mask that's meant to be like the Jason mask. But it obviously looks cheap, but it's still good in its own right.
Right, but you also have the fact of this is supposed to be the flagship. You know what I mean? This isn't some Halloween ripoff. This isn't some cheap, $2 million fucking Friday the 13th ripoff movie or Halloween wannabe. This is supposed to be Halloween, the return of Michael Myers. And the least they could have done was shelled out whatever it was they needed to do to get the likeness of First Shatner to get the original mask. Because, I don't know what the deal was, but I know that's what it mainly had to do with, is they didn't want to have to pay for the original mask. And that's what they always kept avoiding until the newest one. And it was just like, why? Just pay for it. It's what everybody loves. It's what everybody wants. It just, that face is Michael Myers. Without the right lips, without that right curvatures in the cheeks, it's just missing something. And they went too far in Resurrection with it. Like they went almost too cutesy with the features, if that makes sense. This one's probably, though, again, not to take away, this is probably one of the better of the masks in the sequels. It just, unfortunately to me, like I said, feels like that cheaper, lower level when you should have been able to shell out the little few bucks more to get the better version, to do the original. Because that's really what it boiled down to, because that's why there's so many different versions in part 7, is because on H2O, they were constantly change it. It looks too much like the original, or it doesn't look enough like the original. Well, now it looks too much like because they didn't want to have to pay for the likeness rights or whatever. So
the one issue I had with H2O was the fact you kept seeing his eyes.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. If one thing H2O has against it, the biggest thing going against H2O, in my opinion, because otherwise H2O is one of the better of the sequels, is that, the guy playing Michael, the mask, is horrible. And like you said, you can see his eyes through it. He's got a paunch. He changes his height throughout the movie. Not to mention, the several mask changes. Like that one, I think notoriously has the most different masks. Because I think this one only has, like I said, 2 or 3 at the most. And then 5 has, I think, a couple different ones because the length of his neck keeps changing in the scenes throughout different ones and stuff like that. But like inconsistently throughout the film, H2O is the worst. Because there's literally like, I think 5 different masks, including the CGI one in that.
They had a CGI mask?
Yeah, there's one shot where they did it with CGI because they had one of the older masks in it. Because that's the thing is they went back and reshot all of Michael's scenes because they didn't like the mask that was in the original version. And so like throughout the film, there's like 5 different masks. Jeffrey actually, I think, knows this a bit better. Jeff, from Geek Blend, I mean. Because he's more of the Halloween fan. I'm more of the Freddy fan. Yeah. So like if you want to know some trivia on Freddy, then I'll give you that, and maybe Chucky. And then it goes like, yeah, down the line, Jason, Michael, I know less and less.
I know more about Michael and Jason, and I don't know squat about Freddy. I mean, all I know about Freddy is what I learned from Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that's not horrible, but it's not the best place. I mean, if anything, that movie does Jason more of a disservice than anything. Freddy's just they try to make him. Jason is a little bit more. They try to make him a little bit more of a. What's the word I'm looking for? Sympathetic character than he really is. So you're kind of rooting for him instead of Freddy.
Well, in a way, he's always been a sympathetic character.
Kind of, which does. I guess my whole thing was the whole Freddy's died of fire, he's died of water. So, like, obviously they'd say, "Oh, Jason's afraid of water." He's never been afraid of water before. He walked halfway to fucking New York.
But I can buy that water would be his weakness because, well, first off, when you think of how each of them died, Freddy died by fire, Jason died by water.
Yeah, but it's fucking stupid. Because Jason's been in the water through most of the films when he's not on. Like, he has no problems getting in the water.
Well, maybe he's adjusted to it, but it's like in his dreams, in his mind, that's where he's weak to water. It's like when he's awake, water isn't a problem to him anymore, but in his mind, he's still going to be tormented by it. And that's why he hesitated when attacking Freddy through the water, because that was his mind reacting. Because remember, that first fight was really a battle in the minds.
Not only that, just the whole, like, tranquilizing Jason. No.
Well, that was the only way he was probably going to get Jason into his realm.
Yeah, I know, but there was just the whole thing with, like, they should have just had him, like, something happen to where like, I'd have been more believable, like, if Jason was, like, say, on the top of a big building or something, got knocked off or something, and then he got knocked out for a few minutes or something.
He took a big fall that knocked
or something like that I'd be more believed that he would knock himself out than tranquilizers, because it's just, how would that have an effect on a zombie?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make no sense. I maybe it would, but and I know, I get it. That's the tough part, but that's where they had the right idea in the ending. It's like, you got to pull Freddy out of the dream. That's how this works.
Yeah. Did they ever do that before?
Oh yeah, they did that in. That's kind of how they tried to do it a couple times in the movies.
But they never really went full on with it, right?
Freddy's Dead did. Because that's basically how they killed him in Freddy's Dead. They pulled him out of the dream, blew him up. And that's technically his death.
Wasn't part 5 Nightmare on Elm Street? Wasn't Nightmare on Elm Street 5 like a parody or a goofy version of Freddy?
No.
No.
The Nightmare on Elm Street. You might be mistaking New Nightmare, because New Nightmare takes place in, like, the real world. Like, where Nightmare on Elm Street's a movie, but Freddy has gotten out of the movies.
I think
you're cutting out real bad. I don't know if it's your internet or mine.
I think you cut out there. StreamYard is acting up.
So yeah, what's on one of our ends here? Yeah, you're cutting out too. I don't know if you're just mistaking that New Nightmare takes place in the real world, and
come on,
Hi, everyone.
StreamYard.
there you are. Yeah, I don't know which one of us is goofing up here, but I turned my phone off just in case. Well, it must be him. So yeah, I guess I'm by myself. Hopefully he'll be back here in a moment. So how are you guys doing out there? We got Curtis, Movie Blocks Productions, Captain Trek. How you doing? I know Captain Trek. Gotta Swim. How you doing if you're still around? Mando Merc. Howdy, howdy. If anybody's still listening. Curtis says you loved Freddy vs. Jason. Watched Nightmare on Elm Street after they're pretty good. Saw first for sure, and a couple more probably, but Freddy vs. Jason is a guilty pleasure. Oh yeah, it's not horrible. It's my show now. Yep, Captain Trek. I'll give him a minute or two, and then yeah, I think if I leave after a few minutes, the stream ends. So we'll see. Hey, how you doing, Gotta Swim? Surprised you're here. I know you don't like scary movies. Oh, Lord. Yeah, I'll give him like another minute. Because I don't know what else to do. Hopefully he'll be here soon. But yeah. So what's your guys' favorite scary movies in the chat? It doesn't have to be the Halloween series necessarily. It's like I know Gotta Swim. I know you're not a big fan of them from what you say on the MEAD Radio streams. I'm glad to hear you're doing good, Captain Trek. That damn delay. Hey, Jeff. Yeah, now I'm by myself, Jeff. Thanks a lot. Jeffrey Turner's net went out. Hopefully he makes it back here in a minute. Because like I said, I don't know what else to do. I can't end the stream for him. Insidious, you like that one, Curtis? I don't know if I've ever watched Insidious. I'm trying to think. Oh, he's back. I was just about to check out if you didn't make it back soon.
Yeah, apparently my freaking internet is being a pain in the freaking ass.
I was going to say, I didn't think I was having issues with mine, so.
Okay. Oh, thank you for keeping the stream alive, because it was...
No problem.
I mean, for a moment there, I thought, I was afraid something bad was happening. So what did I miss?
No, not much. I was just asking everybody in there what their favorite horror film was while you were gone, and got a couple answers. And Jeff says he's sorry he couldn't make it, and I scolded him because I was by myself.
Don't worry, Jeff. Maybe next time. But you're here in the chat. That's got to count.
Gotta Swim like Psycho and a good vampire movie. Oh, there you go. I like Psycho quite a bit. Big influence on Halloween.
I'd be lying if I said my favorite horror movie wasn't The Terminator.
Yeah, I guess you could consider that a horror movie because it really kind of is.
Yeah.
I've made that. I mean, it's written just like Halloween, basically. Speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I wasn't sure if there was much else to really say at this point. Again, you made a pretty good case for it being your favorite film, I think. in
Now
the,
and
in the
again,
sequels.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I understand why some people would probably feel that Halloween 4 is a flawed film because it started a lot of great stuff, but the other films could not deliver. But still, the fact that it could have led to something great is why I feel it's the best and it's underrated.
You'll have, I mean, and that's a fair, I mean, again, that's a fair point of view. I totally see where you're coming from, and I don't agree with it, obviously, but
Yeah,
no,
I
that's
mean,
totally a fair point of view.
and that's another thing too. Not to divert to Star Wars talk, but
Yeah.
that's why even though The Force Awakens was obviously meant to start tarnishing the franchise, there were some elements to that film that I feel had good potential if they were just handled well with like on the rest of the story onward.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, because outside of the death of Han Solo, which was basically in vain, that's the worst part. Outside of,
And the fact
yeah,
that they
nothing
missed
just
their
paid off.
opportunity to have all three of the
Well,
or
yeah,
all
yeah. Well,
four of the original actors back.
that's the point of, Harrison Ford dying. Yeah, um, you lose that opportunity, and then yeah, you're right, because there was plenty to build on with the Force Awakens. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I
Yeah.
mean, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Unfortunately, we're stuck with a very strange series, a very unique series, of course, with Halloween. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
But like I said, I feel like Halloween took advantage of what the original films were trying to hint at, but were too afraid to do because I feel like that was Carpenter's flaw. He wanted to keep the story grounded by keeping Michael Myers, just a psychotic human who was just durable and hard to kill. But it seemed like he really wanted to hint that he was not normal, that he was some kind of supernatural, like juggernaut of death. But he was just too afraid to touch upon that because he probably thought magic and mysticism was too silly at the time. But then when he did Big Trouble in Little China, he was all for the mysticism stuff.
well, I mean, there was always kind of an element of the shape being not quite human, and you have like the buildup from Loomis. I mean,
Yeah,
there's that aura of it. And I mean, again, like at that time, you hadn't had Jason, you hadn't had, Freddy, you hadn't had these other supernatural killers, even Candyman and stuff like that, to where, I mean, really, that's part of what makes Michael a bit more scary than those guys is he's possible.
yeah.
As much as he may be, like I said, a little superhuman at times, there's just more like,
There are
that's what
psychos
always,
like that who can be
that's kind of what's made
seen otherworldly.
Michael stand out a little bit above, or I wouldn't know about above, but I mean, aside from the rest, I guess, in that he is a very real threat. And he's scary more so in that, especially when he's not chasing a sister per se, as he is just his ability to just, turn on a dime and decide tonight he's going to kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just that whole like, and Loomis is the only one who's, who seems to be aware of what he's capable of. I mean, that dynamic. They tried to mimic it in certain other ways. And of course you had the loony guy in Friday the 13th. You're all doomed. But I mean,
Yeah.
Loomis was just kind of I don't know if there's been a character that they've been able to, I mean, yeah, he's kind of like the Van Helsing in a way, I guess you could put it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Or
in a way,
Captain Ahab.
kind of, but I mean, in a way, if it wasn't for him, there's no way this movie would have been the same. His presence is sorely missed in H2O and all the other films since Part 6. And I mean, yeah, Malcolm McDowell did actually a fairly decent rendition, in my opinion, because he didn't mimic, the original. I don't know what I'm supposed to let you have, Geek Blend.
Yeah, I mean, I sent the link just in case you wanted to get on, but
I don't know unless he was talking about when I said, yeah, something about scolding him. I already did. I was just like, yeah, now I'm here by myself. Thanks a lot.
Oh, okay.
Because at least
But,
if you'd have cut out and he was here, then I'd have had somebody to talk to. But
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, though. I mean, it could be a lot worse for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, I kind of like the whole dark blue aura of night in this film. To me, what I love about this Halloween film is it reminds me of the night scenes in the James Cameron films, be it Aliens, be it Terminator 1 and 2. It's like it's supposed to be black, dank, and have a blue tinted glow to the entire surroundings. And I like that.
Yeah, and that's a personal preference, and that's understandable. But to me, unfortunately, I don't know if Jeff in the chat is listening still. If he agrees with me on this, I feel like I said before. I feel like it makes the movie feel like it was filmed by a music video director. It just doesn't have the same feel as Dean Cundy. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know.
And in a way, I agree with Curtis YZ. See, to me, the definitive trilogy of Halloween films is 1, 2, and then 4. So if you look at it like that, then 4 really is secretly a good film.
Well, I mean, again, I can't really argue with you too much. I mean, I can say my personal preference, but I mean, it's not like there's some conclusive fan, vote that has said, one way or the other. I mean, I know it's a very popular sequel. I mean, I can't really argue with you too much on it. That's the sad part. I mean,
yeah. I mean, to me, it's an underrated sequel because they want to talk about H2O and, the latest Halloween film being reboots. Halloween 4 did it first, and it was on the 10-year anniversary of the first film. And they did it in such a way that it made people want to come back to see what happens next. But like I said, it's just the studio, they grew cold feet, and then they backed away from what they thought they could have done. And they toned it down and tried to reverse course, take it in a different direction, and that's when the rest of the movies kind of went downhill.
Kinda. I mean, it was one of those things. Like I said, I mean, I'm really curious to hear like some of Jeff's insight because like I said, it would be really nice to have like a third, voice in on this one, kind of. Yeah.
Well, I could always retitle this to part 1, and we can continue this at a later time.
Well, maybe, but like, because that's the thing is, like, I mean, because what it boils down to is really just our personal preferences, and without kind of like another point of view, it really is tough. Because I mean, me personally, I mean, again, even going off of what we got, I still think H2O was very well done. It made up for all the sins of the past, and to me, part 4 is unfortunately part of those sins, I guess, as a fan. So growing up with Halloween, it was a bit of a letdown at the time. In retrospect, here's the thing with like when it came out, like you got to remember, like until 5 and 6 came out, I don't remember 4 being that beloved. It was more like, oh yeah, that was the better of those that we got, because at that point we thought 6 was it.
Well, the first Halloween film I ever saw was H2O, and then I went back to rewatch the others. And then when I saw Halloween 4, I liked that film more than H2O right off the bat, because to me, H2O really was continuing the bad decisions. Because look, I love I wouldn't say I love, but I like Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she is a good actress, but she could have returned for the 4th one, and she didn't because she thought she was above it. And then she later on comes back for H2O, and it's more about her killing Michael off. And then Resurrection comes along and says, no, you didn't kill Michael off. And then they kill her off in like the first 10 minutes. And now they do another reboot. Probably the umpteenth reboot now. And they bring her back. She has no connection to Michael other than he tried to kill her once. She's the one that got away. And once again, it's like trying to make her the center of it all, even though Michael really is the main star.
I don't disagree with that point too, but I do feel like she is like once H2O is just the better of, even better than the new one, in my opinion. It just that third act really, I mean, and the way she, actually most of the film, I mean, outside of the screamisms, it's a very well done film.
I don't mean to sound negative or pessimistic or crude. To me, H2O was the beginning of kissing Jamie Lee Curtis's rear end.
Well, I don't have a problem with that because she was the star technically of the first film.
And she probably wasn't doing too much and she needed some work and something to make her relevant again, and that's why they didn't.
Nah, at that time she did it just because she wanted to.
Okay, so she did H2O.
No, you got to remember, when she did H2O, she was at the top of most of her career. Okay. Like, she had been coming off of things like Fish Called Wanda and True Lies and shit, so she didn't have to do Halloween. If she, like, that was a total, like, her choice. It was her getting behind it that got it made in the first place. And I mean, the way that film was received, I mean, it was really well received. I mean, I remember being in a packed theater, and when she comes out with that axe and she screams Michael, I mean, the entire theater just erupted. Like, they were just like, yeah, it's on now. Like, because that's what everybody wanted to see, you know? Like, I mean, if you're going to make it something personal, make it personal. And I understand where you're coming from, but you also have the same issue with part 4 is it's just a loose connection because it's a daughter, you know, and it's her it's his niece or whatever. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's almost like I mean, I don't understand where it's, I mean, I guess if you have such an issue with maybe it being Jamie Lee Curtis's thing, I have more of an issue with the new one in that respect, like the way you're talking, than I do H2O. Because the new one feels more like, I don't understand what the fuck she's doing. I don't understand what anybody's doing in this new one, because they're not really, it feels like a lot of much to do about it, nothing, because you're disconnect, like you kind of said, you're disconnecting Jamie Lee's character from Michael Myers, but yet you're still having her be a big part of these 3 films they've already got done. So I don't get it. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's like, you know, we've seen all there is of Jamie Lee Curtis, yet they are still trying to milk her out of the franchise or something like that. Or
no, and that's where I'm totally fine with just leaving H2O as the end of the franchise. As far as like I said, my trilogy is 1, 2, and H2O, and then I watch part 3 as its own thing. Because, I mean, just I saw part 3 before I saw the other films, so to me, I could always see 3 as kind of its own thing. You know, it was a little easier for me than a lot of people. So, but yeah, no, I mean, again, I usually have to really be in that kind of a Halloween mood and go out of my way to watch 4, 5, and 6, and even Resurrection, of course. And I very rarely watch the remakes. I've only seen Halloween 2, I think, twice.
And
I think I'm losing you, buddy. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Okay. Well, I was trying to send a tweet, and I think it's screwing me up, maybe.
Yeah, all I got was...
Okay.
That's about all I got.
Oh, correct.
I don't know.
So, okay, sorry. Yeah, I think it was because I was sending a tweet, and it was taking so dang long because I got so many darn tabs open at once.
Well, there you go.
Shut up.
Jackass.
Silly douchebag.
Yeah, I know you are.
I know you are, but what am I?
What you just said. Silly douchebag.
See what I have to live with?
You don't, actually.
But yeah, I mean, I just feel like that Halloween 4 really was the definitive end because you technically already killed Michael Myers off in a way that was, you know, seemingly definitive, you know, more definitive than just chopping his head off while he's caught in a tree. You just shot him multiple times by a firing squad, and then you drop a stick of dynamite down in the hole. And then, of course, the whole possibility of his evil passing to his niece, that I'd say is a definitive end.
Yeah, but as long as you don't go any farther than that, because that's the thing is, as much fun as it is to like play with the whole spin-off idea of Jamie, I don't know. I don't know if I can get behind that.
And even if you don't,
because Michael Myers is Halloween. I mean, really, like that's
Yeah.
the argument, right? I mean, Michael Myers is Halloween, no matter what you do. I mean, it's
and another idea. If you don't like that ending where she takes the scissors and tries to stab her foster mother, you just stop it right before that very scene where she's about to put on the clown mask. You stop.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you have the problem is that is the ending. Like they should have cut that off before it ever made its way to theaters, and that I think would have helped Part 5 along in a big way. Because you unfortunately just have way too much to deal with in Part 5 because of it.
Yeah,
and it's at a detriment to the series then at that point. Mm-hmm. But no, I totally understand you liking this film. It's a watchable, rewatchable Halloween film. I can't argue that.
Yeah. Well, we're an hour in, and
I was gonna say I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. If not,
yeah, for now, we will continue this in a Part 2 debate, and hopefully next time we'll have the Geek Blend on.
Cool.
Because I understand, he couldn't make it on the panel tonight. But yeah, I do agree with you. We need a third party to help this argument because he is a little more the Halloween guy. So I actually tried to get Jedi Lukey on this one, but he's not ready to make the face reveal just yet, even though this was just us talking. But yeah, everyone, this is Tom from MEAD Radio.
Yes.
Tell them what you do, Tom.
I do internet stuff.
No, don't be shy. Tell them what you do.
I'm of course on Midnight's Edge After Dark, and all that good stuff.
And of course,
MEAD Radio.
And what do you do on MEAD Radio?
Play music.
What kind of music?
Oh, movie music. Yeah. Right now I'm playing scary music, but yeah.
Scary because it's Halloween month.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Yeah, I always have my little themes and shit going on. Mm-hmm.
And of course, you get a lot of copyright claims and Karens trying to suspend the stream and all that bullshit.
Yeah, it's fun. It is what it is.
But hey, it doesn't stop us from enjoying the show.
No, not usually.
Yeah, it's just, and it sucks because considering what's going on with Midnight's Edge After Dark at the moment.
Well, yeah, I just got the one warning or whatever, so.
Yeah, and they didn't even give you a reason, right?
No.
No.
They never give you a reason.
But you got to wonder maybe if it was because of the MEAD Radio stuff.
Oh, no, I got a community guidelines warning, which has nothing to do with copyright. Oh. It has to do with hate speech and that kind of a thing, spam.
And you don't even know what you said to be considered hate speech.
I didn't say anything. Somebody just did it, and
because somebody hates you, or they're just an inconsiderate prick who just doesn't have a life and like to enjoy hurting people.
Yeah, somebody has to actually usually flag you for that. That's not something a bot's going to pick up on.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure there has to be a way you can like appeal the flag.
I tried, and they said no.
So is Midnight's Edge After Dark still up? It's just
yeah, I can't afford to risk getting another warning like that. That's all.
So you're still able to post content to it. You're just not going to be doing MEAD Radio on it.
No, that's why I just started on its own channel. Yeah.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Because after all, sometimes you need backup channels.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I did why I started up my lore channels. Because and yeah, everyone, this is where I segue to what I do. Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty 1. I have my own channel, which is just Jeffrey Turner, but Mega Jetty is the banner. And I also I do a variety of content. You know, sometimes I'll make reactionary videos. Most of the times I do gaming streams. Sometimes I do, and it seems like now I'm getting into a pattern where I do these debate streams with Tom. And then I also have my lore channels. I have TechCom, which is dedicated to Terminator lore. That's TechCom, preserving Terminator lore since 1984. And you can find a variety of analysis videos, background videos, character bios, theory videos, opinion pieces, and my favorite, what if videos. And I am currently working on a crossover video, which is the combination of Resident Evil and Terminator, which is going to be an interesting story I plan to share with you all. So if you're interested, check those out. And then there's, of course, Home One, which is dedicated to Star Wars lore. And while that's still young and in the process of being built, along with my Crane Kick for Karate Kid and Cobra Kai lore, those two are still lore channels to me. This way, in case my main channel, which is currently standing at 400, and let's see, I think I am currently at
479.
479. Yeah, I am currently at 479. So in case my YouTube channel, my main channel, doesn't hit 1K or just doesn't reach it as much as I'd like, I built the other channels to have a more focused view, because not all channels that's are jack of all trades work out. Sometimes you need something a little more focused. So that's why the lore channels are different focuses that I can build on. And that's the best I can go with that. Got any closing words to say, Tom?
No, I'm good. I had fun.
Alrighty. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Be sure to stick around for when we decide to do part 2. Hopefully, Jeff will be available then, and this way we can continue this conversation. But in the meantime, stay awesome. This is Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty One, and I've been joined by Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge After Dark, and you can bet on